Do you want to know what people do when they panic? They go a bit crazy. It usually comes from a place of desperation because when you are pushed to the limit, you just want to sort things out, but nobody will listen. It is the same in wrestling when you are pleading to be featured on television. You come up with something so nuts because you just want to be noticed. So do you want to hear some of those bonkers things wrestlers actually have pitched? You're damn right you do. Number 10, a surfing werewolf. Yep, you heard that right. This is very much a why not just push your hands together situation. It did come from Justin Gabriel, though, who was more into the extreme things in life and horror, I suppose. So he went to Vince McMahon and said, hey man, I could be a werewolf that likes to surf skydive and just have a good time. Triple H was apparently beside himself when he heard this, and you can hear Justin himself talk about it on Chris Jericho's podcast long after he was let go from WWE. He was so up for it, he was going to try and do the gimmick on the indies. Well, I guess somebody talked him out of it, but it is the most mid-90s concept ever. I'm amazed Vince McMahon of all people didn't go for this, but I tell you, if it had been 1994, you would have seen it yesterday. Number 9, 7, or SE, the number 7, EN. I mean, instantly you know this ain't great. It did come from the mind of Dustin Rhodes, who is a bit of a genius with this stuff, but it was also pitched in WCW. Their success rate with gimmicks was not good. Dustin has said time and time again that it was the Turner Network who scrapped this before it got going, which is true. After no more than a few vignettes, they got cold feet and said no more. Now, I do kind of get this, to be fair. Based on a 1998 movie called Dark City, Rhodes in these videos dressed up in garb that looked like the Undertaker and approached a window. The problem was he started to beckon to a child and say things like, "Wake, my son, what's under your bed?" The two then pressed their hands to the glass. It was just a little too much. And who knows what the final idea would be, because context is everything, but also out of context, this would have been torn to shreds. There was no way to get away with it, and it was swiftly killed. Number 8, Tommy Dreamer gets sniped. Kurt Angle rightfully was horrified by some of the stuff he saw in ECW before he got into the industry. So what the flub would he have thought of this? Because in the 90s, Tommy Dreamer woke up one day and decided, I should be shot in the middle of the ring. That's right. Even Paul Heyman thought this was crazy, so said no, and the whole idea would be a whodunit story to keep viewers guessing as Tommy bled to death, I presume. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you never know. A gun is a gun, and Tom wanted to use a gun. All things considered, I would guess Dreamer wanted it to be Raven, because of course he did, and I bet he wasn't up for this. I'm not sure WWE or WCW would have been pumped to hire an actual assassin. Now, let's never do this idea either. I know wrestling likes to push the boundaries, but this is just a really bad idea. Number 7, Bobby Lashley gets fat. So I can't lie, I love this one. I still think we should do it. I'm not entirely sure on the whole getting depressed part, as you need to handle that stuff carefully, but this is what Bobby Lashley pitched to Vince McMahon, with the end result being him getting really fat. Again, my worry is WWE would have laughed at him, which is not cool, but the idea of Bob, who is jacked to the gills, walking out looking like Mac from Always Sunny during that one season, well, it just tickles me. MVP would be the guy to turn things around, as we got a Rocky-type storyline with Lashley ending in the main event of WrestleMania. So that was the hope, and really, Bobby was just working here. Amazingly, Vince didn't like it, I suppose because he loves Lashley's physique more, and really, this was for the bests. We've seen what WWE has done with this type of storyline in the past. The insults would have been appalling. Number 6, Jeff Hardy is Willow the Wisp. I will be honest with you, I don't really get any of the gimmicks that Jeff Hardy ever pitched. I suppose my brain isn't the same as his. All of this also came during TNA in 2014, which was not a highlight time for the company, as creatively it was all over the place. Mostly because we just agreed to stuff like this. Hardy had come up with it as a teenager, however, and really he just dressed up as what looked like an extra from the movie Pan's Labyrinth and acted like he had magic or something. I mean, he was really purple. I don't know. The problem was fans didn't want to see Jeff as a character because they loved Jeff the human being. I think they were happy he was doing something that meant to him, but yeah, it never really clicked. It also ended relatively sharpish before we got Brother Nero. I know all that stuff divided people too, but I would just tell you here, as I've told you 1,000 times, I really, really loved it. Number 5, Eric Rowan Spider. Let us be nice to Eric straight away. He did pitch the idea of carrying around a cage with a mystery. He did not want the surprise reveal to be a spider, though. What he did have planned wasn't much better. His at least would have been quite the shock, because he actually wanted to put actress Joy T. Amgay in a box. If you don't know, she's the shortest person in the world, and if you've ever watched American Horror Story, you know of her work. Rowan's plan was far sweeter as well, as he wanted to be her protector. Not sure what part 2 was going to be, and I hope it wasn't Drew McIntyre squashing her, That's what happened to the spider. On that note, how was this the change? Wrestling is so flipping weird. We went from a human being to a spider. I suppose that thing was a lot cheaper, mostly because it looked like I made it. We did not put a lot of money into this. Number 4, Bryan Danielson is Lloyd Boner. My favorite thing about Bryan Danielson is that he just wants to enjoy himself. I think we can all learn from that. This was the same when he finally signed with the WWE in 2009, and it was time to start pitching names. As Bryan's joy gland kicked in, he did suggest Lloyd Boner and Buddy Peacock. Don't tell me he didn't care where he wrestled. This was the supposed big leagues, and once again he was just trying to entertain himself. It was mentor William Regal that suggested maybe he should go with something more serious, shattering Danielson's dreams to have fans shout Boner at him. Really, Bryan is lucky Regal did say something, because WWE absolutely would have gone with this. We've seen what they have done in the past. You can likely copyright that too, so we would have been off to the races. The problem being, I don't think Lloyd Boner is the guy that main events WrestleMania 30. Number 3, Stang. Nope, not Sting, Stang. This is all to do with Hardbody Harrison, who is a controversial figure to say the least. He was found guilty of sex trafficking charges in 2007. That is awful. He was also a loon in the world of wrestling, as documented by Chris Jericho in his first book, because one of his ideas was to steal a diamond from DDP and drop it in a piranha tank, whereas the other was to be Sting's arch nemesis known as Stang. The nonsense of this is high because even in comic books you don't have an enemy called Man Spider, although there was Man Bat. And actually no, we did have Man Spider too. Probably should just ignore that. Even WCW laughed this out the room, which sums it up. They thought Judy Bagwell on a forklift was a good idea, but Stang was too much. So I think we can safely sum this up in one line. What an idiot. Number 2, Big E wants to be Melman. A total contrast this one, because Big E is not only one of the best humans in wrestling, but also absolutely hilarious. I miss his weekly antics greatly. He took to social media to talk about his first idea for a character when he was signed by WWE in 2009, because he wanted to be Melman, or a postal worker. Now, Mel would have been spelled M-E-L, so it sounded like a person and is also a pun, and this once again is straight out of the mid-90s. Then everybody in the WWF had to have another job as well as a wrestler. It's 2024 as I'm talking to you, and I still don't know why. Sound of the company was well past this point in the 2000s, so turned this down flat, but even Big E now realized this wouldn't have been the best plan. Does make me upset though, because if Danielson and Big E had gotten their way, we could have had Melman versus Lloyd Boner. I'm pretty sure that would have been my favorite match ever. Number 1, Mr. Hole-in-One. Bless Barry Darsow, bless that man so much. As well as getting himself booked as Repo Man after smashing Demolition, he came up with this little doozy. It was after he moved to WCW and decided he needs something new, so he thought golf was sorely absent from the pro wrestling scene, so he decided to become Mr. Hole-in-One. It was in September 1999 when this happened, and of course, he would actually stop matches to putt some balls and show off his clubbing skills. Want to know why he wanted to do this too? He just loved golf. Honestly, good for him. This was another one that WCW didn't really take to and just changed his name before they'd even told him to change his clothes, which meant before long he was Crusher Khrushchev again, and yet looked like he was about to take on 18 holes. This was so damn good, and also, it was so World Championship Wrestling. Know of any other wrestlers that have pitched absolutely crazy gimmick, or maybe you pitched one to yourself? Make sure you let me know in the comments below before you click the video on the screen and hear me talking about gimmicks some more. You can also like the video, share the video, and subscribe, but most importantly, my friends, have a terrific day, and I will see you soon.